Tulsi Gabbard, also known as the Director of National Intelligence, who dropped really a bombshell of documents over the weekend, came out on Friday, really implicating people, including former President Barack Obama, in trying to, in what she calls, again, her words, not mine, treasonous behavior to stop a Trump presidency.
The Director of National Intelligence put out a release, a memo, and a bunch of documents that they've declassified, as well as she went on Fox News' Sean Hannity to talk about this. But here's the headline of the press release: New evidence of Obama administration conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory and presidency. And this is on the heels of us talking about the FBI looking into a grand conspiracy scheme that they are looking into with Brennan and Comey and others. And we're finding out now that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has referred this new evidence to the DOJ. And I want to read this quote from Tulsi Gabbard. We have sound from her later, but this is in the press release they put out. Okay. It says, the issue I'm raising is not a partisan issue. It is one that concerns every American. The information we are releasing today clearly shows there was a treasonous conspiracy.
That's a big word.
In 2016, committed by officials at the highest levels of our government. Their goal was to subvert the will of the American people and enact was essentially a years-long coup with the objective of trying to usurp the president from fulfilling the mandate bestowed upon him by the American people.
The implications of this are, frankly, nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American, because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. What we saw occur here, as the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next president, commander-in-chief of the United States. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to do.
This pretty big claim. Like, you can't just make this claim. If so, we've had some issues with the FBI and with some of the other departments where they've thrown around things over the last few weeks. A lot of times where they've said, there's no smoke, nothing's happening here. Tulsi comes out and says, look, we got evidence, over 100 documents released, the detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama, not even by President Obama's team, not even the Obama administration. Again, these are her words. The Director of National Intelligence words, not ours.
All of us that lived through that knew that there was something nefarious had happened, the weaponization of government. But now you're hearing from the current Director of National Intelligence using words like treasonous conspiracy. That's a very strong phraseology. We stay away from even like normally implicating treason because of what a high bar that is when we talk about the weaponization of government. Yeah. There could be other crimes committed, but like treason is one that you almost stay away from because of how rarely it's invoked. I believe I looked up, it's only been charged against someone less than 40 times in our history. They have obviously secured convictions in some of those, a lot fewer than 40, but you think of even back to Benedict Arnold, which is the original kind of treason against America, which happened during the Revolutionary War. But what we're seeing here in the way she's laid this out is that she's talking about not just the politicization of intelligence. She's calling it the manufacturing of intelligence. And she says there's more coming this week. This was just the first tranche that they're releasing declassified. Obviously, there's a declassification process. But she really, in this first memo and this first tranche of emails and documents that have been released, we're seeing that the intelligence community, the entire election cycle, was in lockstep. That, one, Russia didn't have the ability to actually hack our system and change votes and manipulate vote tallies and change an election that way, as well as the consensus was while their online activity was meant to sow kind of confusion in the United States, make the United States look weaker, they didn't have a favored candidate. Where that all changed was after President Trump was elected. And we remember things like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page talking about the insurance policy.
Talking about it again.
What happened? The President of the United States called a principals committee meeting on December 9th of 2016.
That's in these documents.
In these documents. I'm looking at a document right now that is a summary of the conclusions for the principals committee meeting on the sensitive topic. They didn't even name it in their headline.
And then there were some emails that came out.
Right, we'll get to that as well.
Some of my favorite ones, which are ones that have come out recently, that are like, if they're going to go down this path.
Here are the people, though, that were in this principals meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Rice.
Heard of her?
Interestingly, there was no representative present from the office of the vice president. That would have been Joe Biden's office for this meeting.
So maybe there was a little bit of intelligence there. Let's keep him out of that.
We had John Kerry, Victoria Nuland. We had someone from the Department of Defense, Brian McKeon. We had the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. We had the Department of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson. Chief of Staff, Dennis McDonough. DNI, James Clapper. FBI, Andrew McCabe, CIA, John Brennan, as well as Avril Haines, who was the Director of National Intelligence under President Joe Biden.
Traveling Wilburys.
Lisa Monaco and Ben Rhodes. All of these people were in this meeting. And what Tulsi Gabbard is telling us is that is where it changed, where they said, no, we now need it to be that Russia chose Donald Trump to win and affected the election. There was this collusion narrative. And what did they use? Something that hadn't been used in all the intelligence products thus far because it wasn't credible, the Steele dossier. And that's directed by the President of the United States to effectively get to this outcome so we can undermine Trump.
I actually want to hear more from Tulsi Gabbard. We're going to buy at 11 because I think this is important to hear as much from her as possible.
This document was then used as the foundation for everything that came next. It was essentially a years-long coup that was launched against President Trump before he even had the opportunity to take his oath of office and be sworn in as President of the United States. So, as you know, there was a Mueller investigation that went on for years, cost taxpayers nearly $40 million. There were 2 congressional impeachments. President Trump and almost every member of his family were smeared and attacked, faced lawsuits, depositions. High-level officials were investigated. Some were arrested and put in jail. The list goes on and on about the ramifications of this, but foundational to it all was the fact that we had in President Obama and his leadership team, people who did not want to accept the will of the American people in electing Donald Trump in 2016, and therefore cooked up this treasonous conspiracy to, again, try to effectively, and they did effectively, launch a years-long coup against the sitting President of the United States.
We do need some sort of accountability from the people on that list if they were perpetrating a treasonous conspiracy against the government.
The ball's in the court of the Trump administration now to actually make this happen. We will see. Again, I'm not not unlike our caller that came in from Rumble, where it does feel like sometimes these threats they don't feel empty because this comes with so much information. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, got to give it to her. It drops hundreds of pages, I feel like, of content, documents upon documents upon documents. You couldn't ask for anything more. But now, will there be follow-up when she does the referral? We'll see, again, as Will said, how deep it can get.